Welcome back to the vendor table.
What's up?
Did you just get back from Burning Man? What are you fucking wearing?
My son picked it out.
It's fantastic.
I thought it was good.
Diva Lauren has
Entered the chat.
truly entered the chat. Wow.
I have to dress the part now.
You're an absolute vibe.
Thank you.
Absolute.
Is it a compliment or no?
Yeah, sure.
Yay!
Whatever you want.
I got one too.
Hooray. Wow. Amazing.
Thank you. I'm leaving the glasses on for this one.
All right. Well, before we get into what we're going to talk about today, I have to bring up something that I wanted to talk to you about.
Okay.
So Lauren and I, we text each other like topics and everything that we should talk about, you know, like leading up to a podcast and everything like that. And this came up. Okay. Oh. It's a news story. It's a news story. It's a wedding related news story.
What's the publication?
I don't know. I think it looks like a CBS or something. Okay. The title of this is Wife Bursts Open Husband's Testicles by Smashing Them in Their Wedding Photo Album After She Catches Him Cheating.
It's like some Lorraine Bobbitt shit.
When I design wedding albums,
well,
I don't think they're going to be used for that. Like,
I want to know the logistics of how this occurred, though. Like, was he just spread eagle?
Yeah.
Was this like a post-coital event?
You'd have to think like she set him up to be in that discretion, or he was passed out. So that was my...
Oh, dude, what a shitty way to wake up.
Oh, God.
What did he do? He cheated?
He cheated on her.
I mean, fuck him. Who cares?
Yeah, that's... Jesus.
I don't give a shit.
Wedding albums are very heavy, too. So
loser.
Yeah. But that was a story I had to mention.
What a ball buster. You're welcome.
Wow. That was impressive.
Thank you.
I'm going to leave it at that.
Thank you.
All right, so what are we talking about really today?
We are going to talk about timelines today.
My favorite thing. It's my favorite thing to talk about.
It's the most important part of the day.
It really is, right?
Yeah. 100%.
So I would say the timeline is obviously the most important thing you're going to do as a couple.
It's your lifeline.
It is. It's your lifeline. And as the photographer, especially if there's no planner or coordinator, who's responsible but the photographer for managing it for...
What, the video guy?
Fucking video guys. Are they responsible for anything? No. Right, Matt?
Matt just gets yelled at on weddings.
Yeah. I heard Matt gets yelled at on weddings.
I heard. I've seen it with my own two earballs.
Oh, man. But with a timeline is the most important thing on a wedding day, obviously. Like, it is. It's definitely for the couple. Like, it's going to set the tone. It's going to tell you where to be. And in, I'd say, 9 out of 10 cases, it's the photographer who designs the timeline.
Yes.
Right? Now, there are certain elements that go into it because, like, hair and makeup does dictate when you're going to start getting ready. And they're professionals. We work with a lot of good hair and makeup artists that, like, they know what to do. But hair and makeup usually is going to ask the bride and groom
when we're showing up.
So they're waiting for the cue from the photographer on when they're going to start, and they kind of base it around our start time. So really, it's the photographer that dictates the flow of the day, the timeline of the day, and really just how things go throughout the day, because they're in charge of managing that whole flow, right? So, you know, we'll talk about it from both perspectives, both the vendor perspective as well as the client perspective, and, you know, what to look for and what to expect and things like that. So this is kind of a free-flowing episode, and we'll have fun with it. But yeah, so I would say we'll start with the vendor perspective, right? So building a timeline as a photographer, right? It took me a long time to kind of get where I like have a reliable source of how to dictate the flow.
Day.
Yeah, dictate the flow of the day or structure the day, right? So for me, it's I know I need a certain amount of time to do each segment of the day. Mm-hmm. So that starts at bride prep, into ceremony, or if like they're doing first look, into how much time I usually need for portraits. So that's everything from bride and groom, bridal party, family, and then, you know, ceremony is usually dictated already by the schedule, as well as, you know, reception, cocktail hour, things like that, right? Mm-hmm. So those certain things are predetermined, and other things you kind of have to build out. So it took me a little time to kind of figure that out and how I operate and how I function. Now for you, do you feel like do you have a good sense of your timelines? How do you build out, you know, what's a good way you start with your timeline?
I start with the ceremony. Mm-hmm. So I like to know what time the ceremony is. It's the first question I ask.
Okay.
And based on where the ceremony is, like if it's at a church or if it's at the venue, mm-hmm. like if everything's all at one place, then the timeline can be a little bit tighter. But I still generally include the same amount of time in between for certain things. So, but the starting point for reference is always the ceremony. Then I kind of do 2 hours prior to that is when I'd start with the bride, bride prep, depending on how far the location is. So I like to allot myself 2 hours for bride prep.
Okay.
And people constantly always say, like, that seems like such a huge amount of time. It's not.
No, it's not.
It goes so quick. Mm-hmm. And then it depends on if everybody's on time. Yeah. So that gives you a little bit of extra time. The first thing we usually do is details, right?
Yeah.
We start with the details because they're finishing up touch-ups and all of that. We like to get a feel for the layout of the house or getting ready location, suss out areas that we want to shoot things, which sometimes if we have a hotel or a dark space, we want to see where we can make it work. Mm-hmm. Or figure out what kind of things we need to do to make it work. And that takes time too. Mike and I always show up early.
Always.
Sometimes for me, I show up 45 minutes early because I have
wrong with
nightmares about being late.
Nothing wrong with it.
But yeah, my starting point is always what time the ceremony is and where it is in proximity to where they're getting ready. After that, if the ceremony is a church, that's when I start bride prep.
Okay.
2 hours prior.
Okay.
If they're doing a first look, then it's 2 hours prior to 2 hours. Mm-hmm. So I give myself 2 hours for first look and bridal portraits and family. I like to set aside a solid hour for bride and groom. Mm-hmm. And then after that, bridal party and family for an hour.
Yeah.
If I feel like I'm finished with the bride and groom and I've got all I need, then we go into everything else, and then by the end of that maybe I'll do some more with the bride and groom, or I'll just let everybody go.
Yeah.
And then there's that window of time in between where they get to relax.
Yeah.
But for me, that 2 hours is comfortable. Now, I'm sure you know, like if there's distance that needs to be traveled in between, then you need to factor that in as well.
Yep.
So how do you structure your days?
So
actually, I know how you structure your days because I work with you. But
yeah, she knows how.
For the people.
For the people. Lauren does know how I structure my days and how I am a timeline psycho. Mm-hmm. That's why planners love me. But no, I start with the reception. So I ask what time the reception's starting, and then I work backwards. So reception.
Yeah, working backwards.
Yeah, so reception, you know, let's just say 8 to 12, okay? Then I know cocktails 7 to 8, okay? Then there's two variables. There's either church ceremony or there's, you know, ceremony right before cocktail. So let's just give it the perspective of ceremony right before cocktail. So if, you know, cocktail's at 7, you know, your ceremony's going to be 6:30, right? So that hour before cocktail is usually devoted to ceremony. So that half hour prior to ceremony start time is when guests arrive. That's guest arrival time.
Hospitality time.
So, exactly. So you're not planning to do anything during that time as a vendor. Like the couple should be complete, okay? They should be tucked away, doing a rehearsal, having something to eat or whatever. So as a vendor, you shouldn't be touching that time unless you run extremely late for some reason. But even then, most maitre d's or bridal attendants are going to want to take the couple away, so you're kind of shit out of luck at that point.
You don't really have a choice.
Yeah. So with the hospitality time, you got to make sure you're done at least a half hour prior to your ceremony. So then working backwards from there, I start with first look. Usually for me, I like to do first look if the ceremony is at 6:30, let's just say, right? I like to do the first look, let's say 3 o'clock, 3:30, right? It's 3 hours prior to that. It gives me a good buffer window because most of the time people aren't doing everything all on site, at least here on Long Island. Nothing's all like, everything's kind of spread out.
Yeah.
Like you're getting ready at a hotel or an Airbnb or a house, and then you're traveling to the venue or traveling to the church, or, you know, you're traveling. So you got to build in that time. So, I like to give a good buffer time in. So if 3 o'clock or 3:30 is the official curtain time or start time of portraits, that's like first look time. First looks take all of 10 minutes.
Yep.
Very easy to knock out. I kind of build a 15-minute window because setting them up, planning that and all that stuff might take a little bit of time. You might have to run back and forth. So I always build buffer times into everything I do because of the fact that, like, you don't just roll right out of the car into photos.
Nope.
So if, like, you put on your timeline, yeah, we're going to start photos at 4 o'clock, right? But the bus is arriving at 4 o'clock. You're not starting photos at 4. You're starting them at 4:15. So you have to build that time in because by the time somebody gets off the bus,
like, you don't want them seeing each other, so you have to, like, have your second set up the guys and make sure that he's not looking, and then you have to go back and get the bride and make sure that everybody is, like, where they need to be by a certain time and all of that. So it takes more time than you really think it does.
There's a lot of coordination that goes into that. So, like, I always say we build in buffer time on your day. So
what we call oh shit time.
Yeah. So with that, I would say, like, 2 hours I think is a great amount of time for portraits of the bride and groom, bridal party portraits, and family photos. You should be able to accomplish that as a wedding photographer. You should be if I could speak today, that'd be great. We're on a podcast.
It's the glasses.
It is the glasses. You make me look smarter than I am.
Your brain's just working faster than your mouth.
Oh my God. But if we're able to do everything in 2 hours, I think that's a good window for any photographer. You should be able to get done with your portraits, your bridal party, and your family photos within a 2 hour window.
When I was shooting for the studio, like, they did the timelines, and then you would just kind of have to show up and do it. And they were giving me timelines with sometimes only 45 minutes to do absolutely everything under the sun, and you just couldn't get it done. So like, in one of our previous episodes, we talked about first look and how not doing a first look when everything is at the venue can really put a lot of pressure, a vortex of chaos into your day. And that's not to say, like, we're not anti no first look. We're going to do whatever you want to do, but you have to set certain expectations for the couple in the event that they opt to do that. Here on Long Island, that's, we have a lot of places that they can go in between their ceremony and their reception if they do things at different locations, or they usually will opt to do a first look where they get all of that stuff done ahead of time and they don't have to be pulled for pictures randomly through the day. So ultimately, it's just making sure that they have a good experience and working out a timeline where nobody has to rush around and feel like they've got the crazies. Yeah,
I would say... Yeah, by doing little things with a timeline, and this is both client as well as vendor perspective, like building in that buffer time or knowing or leaving it really to the professionals to dictate, like, when you should start, especially from the client perspective. Like, your pros should know when you're going to start certain things. Like, I do the same thing as Lauren does. Like, so you give 2 hours for prep. Yeah. So I do the same thing. So bride prep is 2 hours. That first half, and I'm always early. I'm always, like, usually 20 minutes to a half hour early every wedding, because I walk in usually a half hour early. I say hi. I meet the mom, the bridal party, all that stuff. I stay hello. Maybe the planner's there or coordinator. I'll start talking to them, like, seeing where all the details are, and then I start styling a flat lay as soon as I get there, because that's something I like to do. Flat lays take about, for me, 15 minutes to build out.
Dude, I spend so much time photographing details, it's not even funny.
Yeah, it's like They take a lot of time to do. It doesn't like just, you don't just throw shit on a table and be like, oh, that works. It's
and
like,
I love it so much. It's like, I don't know why. It's one of my favorite parts of the day is like styling details.
it lets you be creative. That's why. Like, because you're like kind of using your brain. You're like, ooh, this might look cool here and this might look cool. I never used to like flat lays, and now I love doing them because it's like, it like kind of sets the tone for the day. It lets you be creative. It lets you like bring in all the elements. And honestly, it's like you could kind of see the theme of their day and the story of their day just on all the little details that they have. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, styling those details like takes time. So I always like to start about 15 minutes prior to my actual start time because I'm styling those details. It takes me 15 minutes to do. And then basically by the time my start time is actually starting, I'm actually clicking the camera and shooting. So it's like, okay, it's almost like you have a rolling start where like, like you're just rolling into it, and it's great. It puts you at ease a little bit because if you're styling those details for the first 20 minutes and then you got to rush taking those photos, you're less creative. So I always give those tips to photographers is like, get there like a half hour early. Like, don't tell the bride and groom you're gonna arrive. They just like show up half hour early.
I sit in my car for like 20 minutes and just like give myself a nice little pep talk.
Yeah. Like I know photographers that meditate. It's like
I review all my information. I look at my timeline because I print it out and take it with me. Again, I'm a paper person. Mike's a phone person, but I like to have it tangible object to look at. But I'll go through. I love my paper. I like look it over, make sure that I have all of my information, my addresses, everything is correct, and that I don't miss anything at the house too. Like if there's any special photo requests or anything like that, just to make sure I have it in the back of my head regardless. Yeah. So I think definitely get there early. Don't ever show up on time. Yeah,
never show up on time. Always early. What is that expression? If you're 5 minutes early, you're on time. Yep. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, just don't bother, kind of thing.
Except don't not bother.
Don't not bother. If you're late, you gotta
do it.
Make it up. Like make it up some way. But no, I would say 2 hours for prep. And so I usually say to my brides is, when I start, hair and makeup should be complete by the time I arrive. Okay. So, because hair and makeup can be one of the deciding factors if your day starts off poorly or is late. Really, like if you're late, it's one of two reasons. It's either transportation
or your hair and makeup
ran long.
And like Mike and I have been blessed to work with so many incredible makeup artists that we don't really run into this problem very often. We're very good at communicating.
Hairstylists,
yeah,
love to.
Sue, Sue's makeup and what's it? No,
Sue's hair.
Sue's hair, and then
Ashley's hair.
Yeah, Ashley.
Ashley's phenomenal. I know. Shout out to Ashley Glazer. Love you. She is always done when I arrive. Always done when I arrive.
But like it's another thing too, like we discussed in the last episode, like making sure that you talk to them, introduce yourself if you don't know them, just get a feel for like how things are going when you get there. If they're done, which is great. And also take photos of your makeup artists.
Oh my God, they love that stuff.
People.
I send, so Sue, you mentioned Sue. I have a running thing with Sue. Every wedding I work with Sue, I text her a back of the camera shot of a hair shot for her. And she like freaks out and she posts it on her Instagram story. So it's like a running thing that I send her a hair shot like from the back of the camera.
It's just like
wedding. They love that stuff.
They are doing like a phenomenal job at making your brides and bridesmaids look incredible. So make sure that you have nice photos for them to share of your work, and it goes a long way.
It helps you. Like I've actually gotten booked because Ashley, for example, like she's one of the most like in-demand hairstylists on the East Coast.
Because she's outrageous.
I had a bride actually have her booked, and she recommended me, which is rare that like the hairstylist recommends the photographer. But I was like, damn, girl, like you booked your hairstylist before your photographer. You know they're really good if that's the case. Yeah. So so you do stuff like that for hair and makeup, and remember your vendor team is a team. Like at the end of the day, like especially from the client side, from the couple side, the bride side, you're hiring all these people to create your dream team. Like you hear that all the time. Brides say dream team, but it's the truth, right? Like, so you have brides that honestly, they hire like this dream team that want to make sure work in cohesion.
Right.
And that's what you got to get out of it. You work in cohesion.
On the flip side, we have also worked with makeup artists and hair people that fall way behind on the timeline.
Oh, yeah.
And don't seem to care or have any like sense of urgency with getting it done. Like, I mean, I've had situations where like the bridesmaids weren't finished until like 10 minutes before they're supposed to leave for ceremony. And then
I had a fucking situation where the hairstylist was like literally just chit-chatting, and like we were supposed to be done, let's just say 1:00, I don't remember what time, and she was like still curling her hair. And I'm like, ooh, like, and I was working with Maeve, and Maeve and I were like looking at each other like, this can't be real.
And
like,
you already know like this person has received the timeline, they know when they're supposed to be done, and they are not fulfilling their part of their responsibility for the day. That's when that oh shit buffer time.
That's when you cut into your buffer time.
You have to cut into your buffer time and use that time appropriately.
Yeah.
So it's important to have.
Yes. Timelines are
even if you don't use it, like you have it, and then the couple can go and relax.
Yes.
You have break time for them.
I try to build in at least a half-hour buffer throughout the day. And that's not including travel, because I equate for travel. Travel, like if it says it's going to take you a half hour to get to somewhere, add 15 minutes onto that. Add 20 minutes onto that to be safe. But I add 15 because I feel like that's a good window. I've been doing this for so long, I kind of understand like how long it's going to take to get to certain places. But I might say 15 to 20 minutes in between that window, and I build that on the timeline.
And travel on a time, like on a Friday, might be very different from travel on a Saturday. So
exactly, especially
on
here,
holiday weekends.
Especially here in New York, on Long Island, there's always traffic. So you always have to equate for at least, a little bit more time, especially if you're traveling from, say, a hotel to a venue or a hotel to a secondary location for photos. You have to build in that time. So I always try to do that. And I tell my couples that when I break down their timeline for them. I do my timeline questionnaires 4 months in advance. It usually gives them enough time to plan their shuttles out, plan their, hair and makeup out, plan all that stuff out. And then if we need to revise something, we totally can. But I had a bride a few weeks ago who was like, I feel like you should start here. And I'm like, I don't need and she wanted me to start an hour prior to when I was starting. And I'm like, listen, I could do that, but you're going to be still getting ready then.
Right.
And it's a whole lot of dead time.
Yeah.
So I learned that from experience. So, trust your pros is what I'm trying to say.
Too, where it's I want photos of all of us getting ready from start to finish, and it's your getting ready time. I promise you, if you don't have makeup on, you're not going to want me to take photos of you.
I learned that the hard way being a guy.
And if you're not, then your girls won't, you know?
I learned that the hard way being a guy. I used to have this unlimited time collection because I didn't think I was worth the money. I didn't think I was good enough.
I remember you mentioning that.
Yeah, and I remember when this was 7-8 years ago, so I wasn't as good as I am today, obviously. And I had a bride who basically was just I want you to start at the salon where I'm getting ready. And she had I arrived and she was in her pajamas, no hair, no makeup done, and it was 4 hours prior to start time. And I was that was when I realized, I was you don't need to do this.
Yeah.
And and even when I kept the unlimited time package for a while, but I literally said to people, I'm I'll give you 2.5 hours for prep, but even that's a lot of time. We don't need that. You don't need a lot of time. You should be, for clients, for brides especially, you should be done, no joke, at least by the time the photographer arrives, usually 2 hours prior to when you're departing for your ceremony, or 2 hours prior to your first look, or whatever you're having. So usually 2 hours prior to where you're departing next.
Right.
So.
Groomsmen, God, I could do groomsmen 30 minutes.
Yeah, groomsmen are fucking easy. I give an
I
hour
allow
for
an hour.
Yeah.
I allow an hour.
Groomsmen prep is very easy, especially for second shooters. I tell my second shooters hour.
I did show up once. I feel this was a job I did with Jen Lam. The The guys, when I got there, had not even showered. And I was like, you gotta shower.
Yeah.
For like an hour, but she does do 2 hours.
Yeah.
So like when she starts is when you start. So
Oh, she does 2 hours for groom prep?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of time.
so like I think it was an hour and a half this time, but I just left when I was done.
Yeah.
And but this particular time they had not showered. So I literally was there for like an hour doing absolutely nothing because none of them were even remotely close to being clothed.
Yeah. That's why I tell. So I send out a bridal prep guide. That's one thing I do is I have like a little PDF document that has just like little things to have ready for like when I arrive. So it's like all the items to have ready, stuff like that. But it also gives some tips and things like that. So I have a bride prep page and a groom prep page. And the groom prep page is like, all right, we're usually showing up the hour prior to when you're leaving. You don't have to be dressed, but be like showered, shaved, ready to go. Like basically all you're doing is you're going to throw on your tuxedo. And that's usually how all my grooms are. There have been cases where I hear from my second shooters like, yeah, he didn't even get in the shower or like things like that. So do grooms pay attention?
No.
Not really.
Sometimes.
It's kind of up to the bride to make sure he
lay the smack down.
Lay it on him.
Yeah.
That's where the vendor can't really help you in that regard. Sorry, brides, but you gotta wrangle your husband in on that one a little bit. But no, timelines are the most important thing, and they really are the most. They set the tone for your day, and I stick to my timelines. I truly stick to them. You know it. You work with me. You see how much of a psycho I am with my timelines.
I'm the same way. Like it's rigid.
Yeah. Like I'm very rigid. If I know I have it, like say we run overtime or say we're running overtime with like the bridal party shots and it leaves me with a half hour for bride photos and I wanted 45 minutes, I'm going to step up the like my pace, I guess. I'm going to step up the pace in capturing those because I want to make sure we're done. And especially if like say they bridge in a cocktail hour or something like that, I want to make sure the bride and groom enjoys that cocktail hour because here on Long Island, it might be different in other regions, right? But cocktail hour here on Long Island is for the bride and groom to enjoy. Like it's hospitality hour. It's where they're really meeting their guests.
We've seen a couple of comments from people who I don't know where you live, but to say that the cocktail hour isn't for the bride and the groom and it's for the guests is ridiculous.
Bro, like
they paid for it.
They paid a ton of money, and that's where the best food is.
Like the dinner is never as good as cocktail hour. And let me tell you, if you're from Florida, you can't say shit. They serve bologna sandwiches down there for cocktail hour, so get the fuck out. Okay? Yeah. I can say that because I lived there for 5 years. Don't come at me.
Yeah. You don't want no bologna sandwich.
You don't want any fucking dry ass pepper that's been sitting out all day.
No, cocktail hour is bomb here.
Cocktail hour is disgustingly good here.
Yeah, it's usually better than the main course. So you know what? I want my couples to enjoy
We want them to go to cocktail hour because we also want to go to cocktail hour.
Yeah.
I want to eat that food.
I want to eat it too. We're allowed to eat it in like 9 out of 10 places. That's a topic for another day.
That 10th place we don't want to fucking go to.
But no. But yeah.
What was that sound?
That was a good sound. I missed the cocktail hour once, and I was very pissed about it because they had like, I forgot what they had. It was like
the suckling pig.
No.
Because that shit is good.
No, it was like a sushi tower, and they had like a million different rolls of sushi, and I fucking love sushi at cocktail hour. Like, if there's just sushi at cocktail hour, oh, God, it's so good.
You're brave.
What's your favorite cocktail hour food? Like, have you had something that's like, what, like, have you been to a wedding that you're like, you remembered something from
at Land's End recently, they had like this short rib bow tie pasta that was like blew me away because I wasn't expecting it. It was really, really good. And they also do pierogies.
Wow.
I like pierogies.
I feel like I've had their pierogies. I don't feel like they were good.
It was good that
I'm
time.
not like a huge fan of that place's food. I don't know. That's just me. I never really had a good experience there with their cuisine, I guess. Cuisine. I'm just coming out with them today.
Wow.
Yeah.
I will say I don't like shooting at Russo's on the Bay because it's a million miles away from where I live and whatever. It's not really like my vibe. But that is the best cocktail hour ever.
Yeah, I have one there next year. I've never sat there.
It is so good.
It's
Matt,
a friend's wedding.
right?
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. Cocktail.
And it's like the whole... It's a never-ending hallway of food. It's incredible.
I like if they have something like unique, like an Asian cuisine that's like really good, or something like I really like. They have like a Chinese food station. Like the best cocktail I ever had, ironically, was at Oceanside Jewish Center. It was for a friend's wedding. I didn't shoot it, but it was the best cocktail hour I ever had in my life. Like they had everything from they had a carnival station. Like funnel cakes and corn dogs and like gyros and stuff, to they had an Asian station that had Thai, it was Thai, it was Chinese,
nice.
and sushi. It was they had everything, and the food was phenomenal. I was so surprised. I got so full of a cocktail hour, and the dinner was equally as delicious.
That's
I was
amazing.
I was so talk about being surprised with somewhere. I was like, oh man, the food's probably not going to be that great. Nah, polar opposite. It was amazing. So you might have some places that surprise you, but I love a good. We want our couples to enjoy cocktails, so listen to us on the timeline.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, how much time do you change the amount of time that you allot for family and bridal party if they have a very large family / bridal party?
Yes.
Or is it all the same? Do
no,
you factor that in?
The most I give for family is 30 minutes. That's the most I'm going to give for family. And because I tell my couples 10 to 15 groups max, because it's 2 minutes per group usually to set and make sure we get through it. We don't want and I'll have couples send me a list of 75 groupings.
No.
And I say, let's condense this down. You don't need a photo with your aunt, uncle, and then you, your husband with your aunt, uncle, and then you, your husband, your aunt, uncle, and their kids. Let's just do you, your husband, your aunt, your uncle, and the kids. Okay? If they're a godparent or something special, of course I'm going to get that photo for you, okay? But for time's sake and for your own sanity, listen to your photographer, because they'll help you guide
Family
you through that
photos
process.
are the most anxiety-inducing part of the day.
God, they're miserable. So they really are. They're miserable. Not just from the photographer's perspective, because they are
from the couple's perspective.
From the couple's perspective, really, that's where they're most miserable, because you're a prop. You're a straight up prop. You're just standing there and we're bringing people around you. So it's not the most ideal situation. And I've never had a couple really enjoy, I don't think I've ever had a couple enjoy their family photos.
It's the worst part of the day.
Yeah. But you have to do them. We're going to get them. We're going to make sure. But I would say keep your groups down to a minimum. We're always going to do the core family, the immediate family, the photos with mom solo, dad solo, all that stuff. So those, I would say family photos, I allot for 30 minutes, but they really take me 15 because I've gotten so good at them. It's where the groups are if they want 50 people in the photo, that's where it gets hard.
After some time, you because I'm the same way. I rock through family photos so quick. Once you get the combination in your brain, the order of things in your brain and how they go seamlessly, then it's just second nature and it goes by very, very quickly. Yeah. If you're kind of just trying to figure it out on the fly, that's when things go south.
Yeah. Family photos, let your photographer help you structure that for you, especially brides and grooms, because they'll give you good tips and tricks. And you could always, here's the thing with family, if you ever wanted to do a larger group or an extended group shot, you could always plan that out during the reception. Just talk to your DJ or your band to have that group list sent to them. And I usually tell couples this all the time. That's great for also the college friend shot, or the high school friend or the work friend, stuff like that, because the DJ will call them out onto the dance floor. You just do something quick, bam, extended groups. knock them out, and they're a little bit more fun and candid, and I think people like those a little bit more. So yeah, like I would say that. But we're gonna wrap this episode up on timelines. I feel like we're gonna do another episode.
We're gonna do a timeline part 2, probably with a coordinator or planner.
Exactly. Like we're in talks with bringing in one of our friends who's a coordinator on as our first guest to do like probably a planner perspective and timeline. So this was a quick timeline perspective from the photographer's point of view, and tips and tricks for the couples out there that are planning their wedding day. Yep. All right. Well, we're gonna wrap this one up. Lauren, where can they find you?
Can't take me seriously at all.
Where can they find you besides at Coachella?
You can find me at Lauren O'Brien Photo at I was going to say Gmail. Lauren O'Brien Photo on Instagram and LaurenO'BrienPhoto.com. Where can they find you, Mike?
Well,
at the beach.
They find me at the beach,
on a boat.
Not with the fucking glow sticks in my hand and raving. No, but it's all good. You can find me at Michael Casara Photo on Instagram, TikTok, as well as my website. You can find us at the Vendor Table Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Guys, it's been fun. We'll catch you next time.
Okay, bye.